The Dalai Lama and neighborhood groups applaud him. Disney, the Angels, the city council majority do not. He's at the center of controversies dividing Orange County's most populous city. Anaheim Mayor Tom Tait, next on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by 5 Point. 5 Point is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming. Hi, I'm Rick Reiff. Welcome to Inside OC. When Tom Tait was elected mayor of Anaheim in 2010, almost everyone expected he'd continue the policies of his predecessor, fellow Republican and then friend Kurt Pringle. It hasn't worked out that way. Tait has pushed for district elections sought by Latino groups, opposed tax measures that favor hotels and Disneyland, and taken other positions against leading businesses and the city council majority. Tait's lost most of the showdowns, but not the biggest one. He was reelected in 2014 despite big spending against him. And this year, he'll go at it again, as elections will determine whether he gains control of the city council for his final 2 years in office. Joining me, the mayor of Anaheim, Tom Tait. Welcome, Mayor.
It's good to be here, Rick.
So just before we get into all these controversies, let's talk a little bit about Anaheim.
Oh, this is the best, I believe, best political job there is to be mayor of Anaheim. We're a city of 350,000. Because we're in the
which makes it the biggest city in Orange County.
Biggest city of Orange County. We're bigger than cities like New Orleans or Cincinnati or St. Louis, where that size of city. But because we're part of this huge Southern California massive amount of people, sometimes we don't think of Anaheim as being a big city.
Can't even get your name on a baseball team.
Yeah, we do technically.
Of Anaheim,
yeah,
yes, which I know is a little bit of a sore point with you.
A little bit.
But all right, so as I referenced in the intro, you came in and the presumption was things would go along as they have and as they had, and it hasn't happened. What went wrong?
Well, I don't know if things went wrong. I've been the same person I've always been. I believe I sort of have a libertarian bent. I believe that I believe in limited government. I don't believe that a government should get involved in the marketplace and picking winners and losers. So really on those issues is where we really started, I guess, big areas of disagreement on things like subsidizing hoteliers and whatnot. So
well, let's talk about the hotel subsidy then, because I think that was kind of the first issue that flared up a few years back. What was that about?
Well, there was a hotelier, a potential hotelier in Anaheim, and he came to the council and requested a subsidy to the tune of about $158 million. And no other hotels don't have subsidies. We're Anaheim. We don't need to do that for one, but also I don't believe it's right to pick one hotel and give them $158 million, and the rest of the hotels all don't get it.
Of course, the flip side is this is going to generate jobs. The trade unions were all for it. The chamber is for it. Everybody says, hey, we'll more than make the investment back.
Well, that's always the argument. It'll generate jobs, but so does all the hotels that didn't get the subsidy generate jobs, and every small business person who wants to open up a restaurant or start a business creates jobs. And if you don't do if you do it for one, you ought to do it for all. And if you can't do it for all, you shouldn't do it for one.
Okay.
I think that's pretty.
Of course, that was an issue where you did not prevail.
Did not prevail on that.
And then a related issue, a little more current, Disney, this gate fee ban. What was that about?
Disney sought and actually and they ended up getting on a 3-2 vote a ban for any taxes on their gate or parking or anything else for 45 years.
We're talking about the resort district, Disneyland.
Yes.
All that.
Yeah. So for 45 years. So Disney, even if the people pass a tax, which I believe they have the right to do, whether I agree with it or not, But if the people pass a tax in Anaheim in the next 45 years, the city will reimburse Disney for that tax. Again, no other business that I know of in the country, or the world for that matter, has a veto power over the people on a vote of a tax.
Then again, you've said you're a libertarian, you're a small government guy. You don't like taxes.
No.
Would you support a gate tax?
No, I'm not for a gate tax, but I'm definitely not for limiting the right of the people to vote for a tax, whether you agree to it or not. You know, our Declaration of Independence, all are created equal. You know, in this case, I suppose one company's more equal than others.
But I can hear some people saying, Tom, you're being rather idealistic and impractical here. This is a huge project. We've always worked well with Disney. It's been great for the city. It's thousands of jobs. This is going to create tens of millions of dollars of new revenue for the city. And you're rocking the boat, and this is really detrimental to the city.
Well, I would say that Disney shouldn't have brought that forth in the first place. This over 60-year history with Disney, the city has not passed a tax, but the people have the right to do that. And this is, you know, it's a principal matter. Once you do it for Disney, if you're an immigrant that comes to Anaheim and wants to open a restaurant, shouldn't you be given the same prohibition on future taxes for 45 years? It's a principal thing.
Do you think it will cost jobs? Or if your policies prevail,
yeah.
Will it cost the city jobs and the support of the business community?
Well, I don't think. I think Disney is going to do what they're going to do, whether they have that or not. So I don't think I think they would go forward with their big expansion of Star Wars Park, whether they had this provision or not. For example, in Orlando, they're building that park in Orlando, and Orlando, the state of Florida, has a 6.5% sales tax on the admissions. In Anaheim, it's zero. So of the $100 ticket price, zero taxes are paid. I say they have a great deal in Anaheim.
Okay. So Michael Cole Glazier, the president of Disneyland Resort, when this was being debated and passed, made a statement, didn't reference you or by name, but here's what he said. Anaheim has a legacy of city leaders who choose optimism, leaders who knew that the future could be one of growth and opportunity, and Disney has partnered with those leaders for over 6 decades to create a vibrant and enduring economic engine for the city. Kind of sounds like it's a little bit of a shot. I mean, how did you feel when you heard that?
Well, I mean, Michael's a good friend, and I believe he's a great leader for Disneyland Resort. I believe there are some things that are more important than money, frankly, and that's principles upon which this country is founded, about treating people equally. And the right of the people in the future generations to have a say in their city. So this deal for 45 years, my kids' I have a new grandson who will be 47 before they could vote for any tax on Disney.
Okay. Well,
I don't think it's right.
Yeah. Speaking of the voice of the people, let's talk about district voting, which has been a big deal. Explain what's happened in Anaheim.
So, going back to probably 4 or 5 years, well, Anaheim historically has voted for its council members at large.
Which means everybody votes for everybody.
Everybody votes for everybody. So what that means is that each council member has to run in a city of 350,000 people. It's very expensive to run a campaign in Anaheim. Anaheim is 22 miles from end to end. So you have areas, it's hard to get a name in the city. If you're known in your neighborhood, you're going to be known in maybe Anaheim Hills, but not the rest of the city. So it's a very money-intensive process to run for council in Anaheim, which means when you run, you have to raise $200,000 or $300,000, which means you have to go to certain special interests to fund that campaign. A group of Latino activists said this is in violation of the federal and state Voting Rights Act, that you have disenfranchised communities, that people will never have a chance to get on that city council. And you know what, the law's in their favor. So the city ultimately settled that lawsuit. I've been for districts for since
and you settle it by saying we will now vote by district. So you vote in your own district.
We settled it by going to the vote of the people, saying, how do you want to be governed? And the people voted. Almost 70% of the people in Anaheim, virtually every single precinct throughout the city,
and every ethnic group and everything else.
Everything across the board said we want to have districts. So recently it came down to drawing lines. That's where it got a little interesting. We set up a process where we had 5 retired Superior Court judges in Orange County draw the lines. We had something like 10 public hearings, over 700 people involved, 30 maps. They whittled it down to 1. There was a consensus map, and actually they deemed it the people's map because everybody agreed, except for the council. And the council, after initially agreeing to the process, initially agreeing to the map, decided to start the process all over again. And that's when people got upset.
Long story short, though, just recently the council majority decided to go along with it.
Just the last
that's
meeting.
one that you won, so to speak. And why do you think they decided to go along with it? Why'd they change their mind?
Well, I think the people won on that one, and I was with the people. I think they changed their mind because just the inherent fairness or unfairness of setting up a process and then changing it after the results are in really bothered the people of Anaheim. It would be, for example, and I use this at the meeting, we had their national championship football game and Alabama won by 5. It would be like the NCAA the next day saying, you know what, we think we'd rather have Clemson win, and we throw out the result.
Okay. Now, of course, the politics behind this was that by going to the district, now this enables a gentleman named Jose Moreno, who is the no relation, I don't think, to Artie Moreno of the Angels, and we'll get into that later. But he's a professor. He's president of the school board, and he's presumably an ally of yours. And if he wins, and the thinking is he could well do that, you'll now have the council majority. So now, looking at him, though, you've expressed your politics. This is a guy. He's for what they call the living wage. He's favored sales tax hikes. These aren't things you're in favor of, are they?
Well, I don't believe he's favored sales tax hikes. He had said at a debate that he's open to the discussion of them. And of course, they used that and spent, the other side has spent something like $1.6 million when you add it all up, fighting him and our team, saying that he is for these big tax hikes. We don't agree on everything. But we agree on some of these big issues. And I'll call it the crony capitalist issues of giving subsidies to certain groups who might be connected.
Okay. On the district voting, is there a troubling aspect to this that should ethnicity and race be the deciding factor in how we elect people and make our decisions?
I don't think so. I think district elections is just good government. When you look at the city 22 miles from end to end. It's hard to know who you're voting for when you have voting at large. If you have a district, and a district is about 50,000 people, now you have a chance of knowing who that person is. Someone might have been involved in PTA or soccer and things like that, and they have a reputation in the community. I think you get better people that way, and you get people more, basically, I mean, as a kind of libertarian bent, it brings the government closer to the people and more responsive to the people.
I referenced just a short while ago Artie Moreno, owner of the Anaheim Angels, or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, the team formerly known as the Anaheim Angels. All right, a lot of controversy over a new stadium deal. Explain that.
Well, that was, the controversy was heated up around the election time last year. There was, the council voted on a 4-1, I dissented, to go into a preliminary deal, it was preliminary, it was awaiting final documentation, for essentially to turn the, not just the stadium, but the 150 acres around the stadium, prime real estate, where 3 freeways come together in Southern California, that land already entitled. We're going to turn that over to Artie Moreno for $1 a year for 66 years. Or actually, it's a partnership controlled by Artie Moreno. That property is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and it belongs to the people of Anaheim. So I opposed it, and again, I believe the people got wind of the deal, and the people in Anaheim said, you know, why is this a good deal for me? So my job, I believe, is to look after my fiduciaries, and that they are the, you know, I think of that as being a kid growing up in central Anaheim. I make decisions based on what's in his best interest or her best interest. Giving away our biggest asset, real estate asset, to an individual for 66 years for $1 a year is not in that kid's best interest.
So where are the negotiations right now? What's happening?
Well, there's one of the things that council did was right, we're in the middle of a 30-year lease. The Angels have an out clause that would normally be up at the end of this next season. So if they don't have a stadium built and moved into by the end of this season, they would have, they'd be here in Anaheim for the next 15 years. The council decided, again, I voted against it, to extend that out clause for another almost 3 years. Gave leverage, frankly, gave leverage to the Angels to say they might leave. But I don't believe they will, because I believe this deal in Anaheim is the best deal in baseball. And when you think about it, it's in the middle of Orange County. It's just, they don't pay.
Yeah, you're saying it's a good deal because with this land that the city owns, that gives you some leverage. It enables both of you to make money, or what's your thinking?
Sure.
To be clear, are you against doing a deal with Artie that would involve him in the development of that city-owned land?
Not at all. I think that's what ultimately makes sense. For the remainder of the lease, the city, we cannot do anything with the property. Essentially, we do some things, but he has a parking easement over that property. He can't do anything with the property because we own it. So it really cries out for us working together, coming to a solution where that property can be developed, gets best use. It's already entitled for 5,000 residential units, 3 million square feet of retail, and 3 million square feet of office. So it's extremely valuable, ready to develop. We just need to come together. I'd said during the debate that I'd agree to something like a 50-50 split. Whatever he makes, we make. And then, but that's, we'll see down the road where that goes.
Okay, so you, and you're saying you don't think the Angels will leave, but what if you're wrong? What if they do leave? How are you going to feel about that?
Well, of course I'd be upset. The Angels are a big asset. I believe it's, part of the value of a professional sports team is this community pride that we have about a team. It's unfortunately diminished somewhat when you call the team Los Angeles rather than Anaheim, but there's still is tremendous pride in having the Angels here in Anaheim. I don't believe they'll leave, but if they leave, my duty is to the people of Anaheim, and it's not to Angel fans who live outside of Anaheim.
But is it in the interests of Anaheim if the Angels leave?
No, I don't think it is in the interest of Anaheim. But again, at what price? Again, if this is our largest real estate asset and we need a fair deal for the people,
okay.
Plain and simple.
The name, would you want to get the name changed back to Anaheim?
What do you think? Of course I would. Yeah. Of course I would.
Would that be a negotiating point?
Well, I believe the Angels, the last tentative deal was to take Anaheim out of the name altogether. And that's another part that I opposed. Because again, to have a team, that deal was to transfer the land for $1 a year. And so the city would have gotten $66 for that. And we'd have a team named after our rival city, Los Angeles, which again diminishes the value of having a team.
Okay. You've been you spent some time last year hanging out with the Dalai Lama.
I did.
The great global holy man. Talk about how did that come about?
Well, it's crazy circumstances, I guess. When I ran for office, I ran under a platform of kindness and freedom, actually, and I got to say, every time you say that, I kind of grin. People were rolling their eyes. You said you wanted, this was like a campaign theme, City of Kindness. And a lot of people said, you got to be kidding me. Not so much anymore. Because, it's as we know in business or any organization, it's about culture. And culture trumps policies or procedures or strategies. It's about how people make decisions in their lives. And imagine if you lived in a place where people knew that the civic culture was they're expected to be just a little bit kinder. Everything gets better when that happens. Your crime will drop. Your bullying at schools certainly drops. Things like addiction rate, people being isolated.
So give us a for instance of what you did to foster this.
Well, as in business, if you want to change culture, probably the best person to start that is the CEO. I know that from my business experience. So why not the mayor? And so what I do is I talk about it all the time, and I stress it, and I focus on those people who get it. And if they don't get it, I work with them and try to bring them along. Ultimately, it changes the culture, not just at City Hall, but throughout the city. And it's how we look at issues and make decisions. All that, one of the things we did was with our Anaheim City School District, we have a superintendent there who said, what can we do? And we came up with this idea of 1 million acts of kindness. So there's 20,000 kids, K through 6, in the center of our city that did 1 million acts of kindness, and you know what? It changed those schools.
So how does the Dalai Lama get into all this?
That was the question you asked. So that got the attention of the Dalai Lama through his emissary, and I got a call saying, one Saturday, saying His Holiness has heard about the 1 million acts of kindness and would like to invite you to India to talk about it. So packed my bags with my wife Julie and a friend of ours, and we traveled to India and up on the foothills of the Himalayas, and ended up spending 3 days with the Dalai Lama, and so happened to be Bishop Tutu, who was there, and they're writing a book together called The Book of Joy. So it was an incredible 3 days. The Dalai Lama believes that the key to world peace comes through developing a culture of kindness and compassion in schools. And so that's, he believes
And he didn't get that idea from you. But
I doubt if he got the idea from me.
And then he came to Anaheim to celebrate his 80th birthday.
And then he came to Anaheim and celebrated his 80th birthday. I think, there are hundreds of millions of people who saw that on, social media and whatnot. And he also went to UCI and gave 2 conferences there. So we've actually developed, I guess, a friendship over this. And it's, as he said, you have to work at it, though. If we don't work at it, Anaheim will become a city of anger, city of fear. So
of course, speaking of a city of anger, a few years back, big controversies in Anaheim over some police shootings of alleged gang members. There were protests. You got very involved in that, and it seems that we haven't heard a lot about that kind of problem in Anaheim now. And yet you've got lots of other cities where police shootings are causing protests. What's happened in Anaheim?
Well, I'm proud of the way that Anaheim responded to that. And when you have a police shooting, usually there's an there are underlying issues at play that come to the surface. I believe in Anaheim, one of the underlying issues was district elections. And the city's addressed that. So I think that takes off. People feel that they're being treated more fair. We also, the way we dealt with it is during that time, I thought, how would a city of kindness respond? Well, one would be listening to the people. It's just simply listening, and not kind of putting the wagons around and denying, but listening. There's some legitimate concerns coming out of our city about lack of trust in the city government, lack of trust in our police department, and so we started working on those things.
How have the police responded?
The police have responded with reaching out to the community, getting out of their cars, getting to know people, allowing people to know them, and this whole.
And that wasn't being done before?
Well, not to the extent it is now, and not enough. So we've maybe doubled down and tripled down on that, and the results are very good. The incidence of police shootings have dropped dramatically. Gang crime has dropped dramatically, and I'm really proud of our police department and the people in the community for saying, we want to come together as one. Anaheim.
Fantastic. We have only a little less than a minute left, Mayor. So very briefly, and this is a huge issue, but very briefly, you have some concerns about the city budget.
I do. It's we've got as all older cities in California, there's a big unfunded liability, which means money that we owe that we don't have. And that's
for pensions and benefits.
Pensions and benefits.
For retirees.
For retirees. They're changing the way the county rules are in the United States on how governments account for these pensions. We'll show a big negative net worth as soon as that happens, which is we've always had, but now it's going to be on our financials. We need to come up with ways to address this pension problem for the benefit of everybody, the retirees, the current workers, and the taxpayers.
Well, Mayor, very good. Thanks much for coming on. Good luck in those negotiations.
I appreciate it.
That's it for now. Thanks to my guest, Anaheim Mayor Tom Tait. You can watch this show and past shows by going to pbssocal.org or rickreiff.com. You can also catch our shows and our post-show open mic chatter on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by 5 Point. 5 Point is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.